I'm tapping to that next level right now.
Yes.
And I think there's one more level to me. I have no choice. You have to involve. There've never been another person like me. So why would I try to change? I just got to involve Giannis. And that was my mindset all year. Involve Giannis every single day.
Giannis has recently turned 30 and apparently entering the 4th decade has got him thinking about longevity. The clip you just saw was from his brother Thanasis' podcast, where Giannis was dropping all this info on how he's going to extend his prime. More specifically, he's got a plan for improving his shooting, and we're seeing it already being implemented this season. So what is this whole Evolve Giannis all about, and more importantly, is it going to work? Let me break it down. In the most simple terms, this season Giannis has decided to practically ditch the three-pointer and instead focus on his mid-range game.
These games I don't shoot no threes. Zero. Like today I shot 2, I think. Maybe I might go 5 games and don't shoot 0 threes. Last year, the whole year I made like 36 mid-range shots. This year I think I'm like at 55 already, and it's only been 20-something games.
Now, I know how it sounds. This goes against all the modern basketball math and analytics. The cliche 3s are more than 2s comes to mind right away. But to understand Giannis' reasoning behind this quite radical approach, we need to look at his career retrospectively and highlight some numbers. During the first 3 years of his career, Giannis was attempting 1.1 threes a game, converting them at 28%. Essentially, he wasn't a threat from deep, and the whole narrative was revolving around him expanding his range. So that's exactly what he tried to do. From the 2015-16 season to last year, he was averaging 2.7 3-point attempts a game. And here's the problem. His accuracy only went up by 0.5% at 28.5. In other words, higher volume did not translate to better shooting, so in my eyes, the experiment did not work out. Now let's compare this season to the last one, where we already saw a drop in attempts. Giannis took 125 3-pointers across 73 games. That's 1.7 per game, converting at 27.4%. This season, he's averaging second lowest 3-point attempts in his career, less than 1 per game. As Giannis explained it on the podcast, when you take one thing away, it creates space for another. And that's where the mid-range shots come in. Last year, Giannis attempted 2.4 mid-range shots, making them at a rough 35%. Meanwhile, currently he's putting up over 4 shots from there and has already improved that percentage by around 10%. And that's just the start, but the improvements are already visible. Higher volume, better percentage. Something he couldn't achieve with a 3-pointer. Realistically though, Giannis might never become a great shooter, but he doesn't need to be. All he needs to do at this stage of his career is to figure out a way to be as effective as possible. Or actually, the whole point is to be just good enough from outside the paint to keep defenders closer. If he can consistently hit mid-range jumpers, not only does he become a more effective scorer, but that also opens up the spaces for his teammates. That's the next level he should be talking about. What's clear to me, we had almost 10 years of Giannis unsuccessfully trying to implement the tree into his game. But here's the thing, according to him, the next step after mastering the mid-range will be to add back the 3. But I disagree, because I think some things are just not meant to be. And here we gotta touch on Giannis' shooting mechanics. If you compare his rookie year to now, the difference is clear. Back then his form was smoother, he released the ball much faster, his body looked relaxed, the motion was more fluid. Now his body looks stiff, almost robotic, his release is much slower while the motion seems more deliberate. But it's not that surprising. When you add as much muscle and bulk as Giannis has over the years, something's gotta give. I mean, you can't have both the fluidity of a slender rookie and the sheer power and dominance of the Greek freak we see today. Not when you're built like Giannis. It's just physics, and the best example of someone who's trying to go in the opposite direction is Victor Wembanyama. I made a breakdown of Wemby's genius plan to basically just shoot 3s this season, so check that out after. I'll just leave it in the end screen of this video. Also, before I continue, make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and have the notifications on so you don't miss out on future videos. Okay, so the next logical question is, does Giannis need to refine his mechanics to be lethal from the midi? Well, personally, I think he does, and the evidence lies in another area of the game, free throws. Yes, it is very different to be shooting a standstill, uncontested shot compared to a mid-range jumper off the dribble or off the catch. But when you think about it, a free throw is an even easier shot from a similar distance, and Giannis has been struggling from there. His career free throw percentage hovers around 69%. This season, it has fallen to just over 60%, which makes him even more of a liability in clutch moments and late game situations. situations. And it wasn't that long ago opposing fans would literally count to 10 and over to put pressure on the refs, Giannis, and in a way mock his free throw routine.
Coaching staff doing a good job alerting the officials to that mistake.
So yeah, I think that rigidness in his shooting mechanic needs to go, and it all starts from the charity stripe. Plus, given his aggressive driving style and how often he's fouled, converting free throws at a higher rate is an absolute must if he wants to enter this next level. Regardless, at the moment he's leading the league in scoring without even relying on his jumper. Remember how in the beginning of the video I emphasized how he's attempting fewer shots? Well, I purposefully left out his makes and percentage so that we could look at those right now. As you can see, he sacrificed not only taking threes but making them too. And from the mental side of things, I kinda get why his 3-point shooting has suffered so much. Giannis comes up with this plan to swap threes for middies, focuses on it, and so the intent and confidence in that shot goes down. The 3-pointer pretty much became an afterthought in Giannis's game. Finally, what's fascinating about this evolution isn't just what it means for Giannis's game right now. It's what it says about his mindset as he moves into the next phase of his career. By consciously shifting his focus to less physically taxing parts of the game, Giannis is already paving a way for himself to age gracefully in the NBA.
And I just love being a threat out there. He allows me to rest my body. And you know what I'm talking about. Like when you play 35 minutes in a season, and then you gotta put so much load, carry a team one game, then get to the playoffs, and then still be fresh to, you know, compete, which in the last 2 years I haven't.
Just think about it. We're seeing a player who's this reliant on athleticism take such deliberate steps to adapt before injuries or age force the issue. Giannis isn't waiting around for his body to tell him it's time to change. He's taking control right now. Developing a reliable mid-range game allows him to conserve energy, avoid some of the unnecessary contact, and reduce the nightly grind of attacking the paint against multiple defenders. Of course, the real challenge will be maintaining this level of dominance during this transition period. Yeah, so far he is in absolute beast mode. Nobody can really stop his relentless drives to the rim or place in the post on a mismatch. Translating that same consistency to areas like the free throws or mid-range is a different story. For example, on December 5th, the Bucks played the Pistons and Giannis was hot from mid-range, knocking down 5 of 6 shots.
1-3 for the Bucks.
And Giannis pours it on from everywhere. The mid-range maestro.
The very next game against the Hawks, he attempted just a single shot and missed it. Clearly, Giannis is still far from a reliable mid-range shooter, but the improvement is already there. Ultimately, I think this plan's early success could be seen in April. That is, if Giannis not only carries the Bucks throughout the regular season, but actually has fuel in the tank left come playoff time. And of course, this evolution won't happen overnight. There will be growing pains along the way. Whether or not this plan works out exactly as he envisions, what's clear to me is that he's not thinking about just the next game, this season, or even the next one. He's actually thinking about the next decade. But what do you guys think about this Giannis mid-range evolution or even revolution? Can it be the key which will raise his game to the next level? And should he eventually go back to a higher volume from deep? Let me know in the comments below. Also like this video, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.